A story a week, the mind's masterpiece, a work of art from heart to heart. Tales of wonder, wonder she inspires. Upon her canvas, worlds are built, hearts are healed, hopes restored, dreams revealed, puzzles solved, faiths take flight, good works are born. A story a week. Sit back and relish this week's story. The loud, silent voice. Wex, a down-to-earth young man in his late 20s, had a curious mind that wouldn't let a thought escape without flipping it over to uncover its depths. He worked as a night shift security guard, a job that gave him plenty of solitude to think. It wasn't glamorous, and he often wrestled with feelings of invisibility, like the world passed him by while he quietly kept watch in the shadows. But the nights of calm reflection helped him process life, even as he questioned if his work mattered in the broader picture of life. One morning, after a long night's shift, Wex returned home, brewed himself a cup of tea, and took a well-deserved break. When he pulled open his bedroom window curtain, the sight of snow layered over the ground caught his attention. The first snowfall of the year had arrived. As his eyes followed the dance of tiny snowflakes spinning joyously in the air and finally settling down, he smiled and whispered to himself, "Heaven's art." Each flake, delicate and weightless, seemed to embrace its part in shaping the magnificent, graceful design for everyone to admire. The snowflakes inspired him to ponder the essence of excellence. What is excellence? He mused aloud, like models stepping confidently onto a catwalk. A procession of thoughts paraded through his mind, each dressed in its unique perspective, vying for his attention. The first thought strutted forth, cloaked in diligence and effort. Excellence, it declared, is the fruit of persistent labor. Wex considered the snow beneath him, its beauty a result of countless flakes layering seamlessly together. Every individual flake, though insignificant alone, came together like pieces of a puzzle, building a masterpiece admired worldwide. Excellence begins with devotion, he thought, with diligence as its cornerstone. Another thought followed, draped in spiritual truth. Excellence, this one proposed, is a form of worship. Wex recalled the scripture, "Whatever you do, do it for the glory of God." Just as the snowflakes surrendered their individuality to form something breathtaking, he pondered how dedicating his work to God rather than to man redefines success. If everything, no matter how mundane, should glorify God, then the very definition of excellence needed to be re-evaluated. True excellence, he realized, is not about worldly success or accolades, but about walking in step with the Creator. The third model took the stage, loud and dazzling, wearing the trappings of worldly success like wealth, titles, and recognition. Wex frowned, recalling how society often equates external achievements with greatness. He had encountered this fashion of thought before, when a friend had mocked his janitorial job at the hospital. Yet Wex found fulfillment in the unseen value he provided. Society tends to celebrate visible triumphs like building houses, earning degrees, while often disregarding the small, quiet steps that lead to meaningful change, whether for oneself or for the community. But Wex believed that the person who uncovers their hidden talents and takes the risk to nurture them is just as important as someone who gains a doctorate. The thought lingered in his mind, but the falling snow reassured him. Even overlooked efforts like the snowflakes could shape something beautiful and impactful. He thought of the COVID-19 pandemic, when the unseen efforts of janitors and other unsung heroes became essential. Their quiet diligence and excellence had saved lives, proving that true excellence often thrives in the shadows. As the procession of thoughts ended, Wex marveled at the profound lessons this snowfall had brought him. Each reflection, like a striking outfit in a collection, painted a fuller picture of what true excellence could mean. He was overwhelmed with gratitude for this moment of clarity. Sipping his tea, Wex leaned back against the window again, his gaze following the snow as it thickened, carpeting the earth in pristine glamour. Integrity, he murmured, is the couture of the soul, standing out in a world chasing shortcuts and mediocrity. The depth of these lessons settled within him, stirring a strong desire to share them with others. Moving to his desk, he opened his laptop and began to type, titling his write-up "The Pursuit of Internal Excellence." As his fingers danced across the keys, a smile spread across his face, knowing that, like the snowflakes, his modest contribution could bring beauty to the world. After finishing the post, Wex paused, his fingers resting on the keyboard. He leaned back in his chair, taking a moment to reflect. The snow outside continued to fall, blanketing the world in stillness. He took another sip of tea, the warmth grounding him. As the lessons of the snowflakes lingered in his thoughts, his mind turned to something else, his job, the night shift security guard position he held at a local business complex. It was time to think about that. Wex had always been a hard worker, driven by the understanding that the world often overlooked people like him, those working quietly behind the scenes, unnoticed yet essential. While many of his colleagues and friends saw his job as a temporary or beneath them, just a way to get by, Wex never viewed it that way. For him, every shift was an opportunity to protect what mattered, to safeguard someone's well-being, and to ensure that nothing of value was lost or harmed. His job was one of service, a quiet form of protection. And then a connection began to form. Just as he stood watch over empty hallways, guarding lives and properties, his role as a voice on social media, though not a widely recognized one, had taken on a similar significance. His posts, though simple, acted as a kind of safeguard for people's hearts and minds. In a world where people were often misled by false images of success and excellence, he realized he had the opportunity to protect them from that distorted view. Like the flakes of snow he had washed earlier, his words could gently build something meaningful, something worth admiring, something real. Wex took a deep breath, his fingers once again poised over the keyboard. This time he knew exactly what he needed to do. He clicked post on his blog, his humble corner of the internet where he had been quietly sharing his thoughts for the past few months. He knew his words wouldn't be celebrated by millions, but that didn't matter. What mattered was that, like the snowflakes, he was adding his small, quiet contribution to the world, hoping it would bring some clarity to those who needed it most. He could see now how his role as a security guard wasn't just a job, it was part of his larger purpose. He wasn't just securing buildings, he was guarding people's perceptions, people's self-worth, helping them shield themselves from a world that too often celebrated the wrong things. Then a thought bubbled up inside of him. What if he could do more? He had always had a passion for photography, a quiet hobby he had nurtured over the years. The magic of capturing a moment, freezing time in a single frame had always fascinated him, but he had never considered pursuing it seriously. He had kept it hidden as just another thing he would dabble in when he wasn't working. But now, as he thought about his reflections, the lessons from the snowflakes, and his role as a quiet guardian, something clicked inside him. He realized that he could bring this hidden talent into the light. He could use photography not only as a means of personal expression, but as a tool to inspire and teach others the true meaning of excellence. Excellence not defined by titles or wealth, but by dedication, authenticity, and service to others. The idea was born, so he started sharing his photography more, using his social media platform to encourage others. He would post pictures that spoke to deeper truths he had learned, photos of quiet moments, small acts of kindness, overlooked beauty in the everyday life. And in his captions, he would weave his philosophy of excellence, how it wasn't the loudest, most obvious things that made a difference, but the small, consistent efforts that added up to something beautiful. His post began to gain traction. His followers, drawn to his authenticity, began to grow. People started to appreciate the value of his work, not just the photos, but the messages they carried. Wex didn't need to shout to be heard. His quiet reflections, his ability to capture beauty in the most subtle of moments, resonated with those who felt overlooked by society's narrow definition of success. But Wex wasn't content with just building an audience. He felt a deeper calling to make a real impact, to give back to the community that had so often overlooked people like him. He entertained a thought that grew within him. Why not create a platform that could actually change lives? With his savings and earnings from his social media platform, Wex decided it was time to transition from his night guard job to something more expansive, a community-focused platform dedicated to uplifting overlooked talents. It would be a hybrid platform, harnessing the limitless potential of cyberspace while valuing the lasting impact of face-to-face connections. He had quietly nurtured this idea for some time, and now, filled with resolve, he took the leap. The platform was officially launched. Soon after, his efforts began to gain recognition. Grants from various organizations started to roll in, further solidifying his vision. These funds enabled him to offer scholarships, mentorship programs, and micro grants for people who, like him, had often been underestimated or dismissed. He knew firsthand the power of belief, the kind that helps open doors when the world seems to close them. Having experienced the sting of being overlooked, Wex was determined to offer others the opportunity and resources to show their worth to the world. The platform focused on nurturing the kind of inner excellence he had discovered, helping others realize their potential, their worth, and the quiet power of consistency and integrity. It offered safe spaces where people could share their talents without fear of being mocked or dismissed, where they could receive support and resources they needed to shine. It was a bold vision, born from a lesson he had learned from the snowflakes. He had seen how small, consistent efforts could accumulate into something both beautiful and powerful, just as each snowflake, falling one by one, contributed to a pristine landscape. His own vision took shape in the same way, building one person at a time, creating something greater than himself. It was a journey fueled by hard work, dedication, and faith. His words, his photography, and his community platform became a lighthouse for those lost in the fog of societal expectations. All of it began with a single act, his response to the lesson he had learned, shared through his post on his Twitter handle, which was, "Excellence is not defined by the world's standards. It's the quiet, consistent work you do in the shadows that creates something beautiful in the light. Let's build something real." His own words had invited him to build, and indeed, he had built something real and great. An enlightened perspective, he realized, has the power to turn your life around.